What would you define as luck?
Luck is, we talk about Dr. Richard Wiseman, who conducted a 10-year groundbreaking study on the science of luck. Essentially, in his 10-year study, he found.
So were there experiences in your life, though, that you thought to yourself, wow, I just got really lucky? Or did you always think there was something else to it?
The purpose of this whole topic was to kind of dispel the myth that luck is something that happens to you. And really what it is it's something that you harness and you create.
What is the formula or the ingredient for what you call luck?
The formula for it is...
If you're like me, you've probably tried every gut health product there is out there. Probiotics, fiber, detox teas, and nothing's really worked. That's when I found Happy Mammoth, and it was a total game changer. Happy Mammoth focuses on the root causes, like balancing your gut and hormones, not just masking symptoms. Their natural formulas help reduce bloating, boost metabolism, improve digestion, and support healthy hormones, and they're specifically designed for women. What I love is they're gluten-free, dairy-free, non-GMO, and backed by thousands of 5-star reviews from women who are finally feeling like themselves again. If you've been struggling with gut issues, mood swings, or stubborn weight, I highly recommend checking them out. For a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code UNDERSTOOD at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code UNDERSTOOD for 15% off today. Welcome back to Misunderstood. I'm Rachel Yucatel. My guest today is Nicole Perrone, a billion-dollar mortgage producer, powerhouse executive, and host of the Billion Dollar Banker podcast. She's led teams to extraordinary success in a notoriously cutthroat industry, but what sets her apart isn't just her track record, it's how she thinks. Nicole believes that luck isn't random. She believes it's a science, a formula, a mindset. And in her work as a leader, entrepreneur, and storyteller, she's developed a philosophy for how to create your own luck, especially in high-stakes environments where chance can feel like everything. Today, she's joining me not just as a businesswoman, but as a thought leader on something we don't talk about nearly enough: how to engineer serendipity, increase opportunity, and actually learn how to be lucky. Nicole, thank you so much for joining me today on Misunderstood. How are you?
I'm doing great. I love that intro. It was amazing.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm really excited to have you on the show to talk about luck. But before we get into that, I do want our listeners to hear a little bit about you. And I mean, you are this fascinating woman who has done so well for yourself. So it can't all be luck, but tell me about your background, where you're from, and tell people what you do.
Thank you. Yeah. So from New Jersey, kind of in this tri-state market, grew up a little bit between New Jersey and New York. I've been in the mortgage finance industry for the last, way too long, almost 20 years. So mortgage executive. So, we're not going to talk too much about mortgages today, but I'm an entrepreneur, real estate investor. I own a construction company here in New Jersey, general contracting company called New Jersey Construction. And I host a podcast called the Billion Dollar Banker Podcast, and get to meet amazing people like Rachel and kind of do these amazing visits. And maybe we can have you on our show too, Rachel. That would be awesome.
I would love that. But how did you, what made you even want to get into all this stuff? This seems very this is like a tough industry to be in. Like, what was going on in your life 20 years ago that you're like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to get into mortgage.
Yeah. Well, I was a little kid. I always wanted to be a mortgage banker. You know what I believe, and this actually ties in, great question, ties in well to our conversation today, but I believe in limitless potential. I was fortunate enough to grow up with two parents that always believed in me and really helped me to believe in myself. But interestingly enough, when I got out of college, they were like, I don't know if you should get into the mortgage industry. That's kind of like, we just went to school. Like, maybe you'll get a job that pays like a salary that could be really stable for you. And I said, you know what? No, I want to get into an industry where, number one, I'm able to help people. And number two, I'm able to achieve whatever it is I set out to achieve in my life. And so I love the fact that in this business, you are basically, whatever the results are that you get in your business is what you're putting out. And so it's been a phenomenal industry. I've really grown my career that way, and kind of been able to get into all these other great industries as a result of it, kind of mastering this one side of what I do. And so helping people, reaching my full potential, And I'm just in love with real estate and finance. After some time, I just got more and more just in love with it. I love the process of helping people find their home and going through these financing options with them and taking them to the closing table. So it's
Well,
kind
it
of
sounds
awesome.
amazing because it sounds like you're able to figure out. I mean, do you just work with a certain clientele or you work any person to try and get them the house that they can afford?
Any client, 32% of the market's first time home buyers right now. So that's a big part of who we work with. And then we work with second homeowners, investors, people purchasing, luxury homes all across the country. So we can help people anywhere looking to obtain anything. We work with 150 different investors, meaning banks. We process, underwrite, close, fund the loans right here. And we have all the options. So when a client comes to us, it's not like we have one product, one program. We have every program that's out there. So I feel really great about the fact that I can help people to achieve what they're looking for and not just give them what I have.
I'm curious because I've seen a lot of news recently about the market and homeowners and, what kind of market this is going to be going forward. What's your take on where we are?
Yeah, I think that, what Warren Buffett says it really well. He's like, when everybody else is scared, that's the time to act. And I think there's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines right now, kind of waiting for rates to go down. And there's all these great metaphors and analogies like, hey, if we waited the last time, we would have been waiting, for decades, right? And so you look at what happened in 21 with rates coming down to 2-3%. It was like it's never happened before in history. And
Mhm.
so we can't really compare, the rates today to the rates then because it's really not comparable. That was kind of a once in a lifetime thing. If you look over the last 30 years, the average interest rates, over 7% when you look at financing in general. Now home values have come up. And so, financing at 7%, you could feel it. But I think my advice to people is like, just make sure that you get out there and figure out what your options are. Don't make any assumptions in anything in life. I think this is a great market. I think there's markets that are buyers markets, sellers markets. There's always opportunity in real estate. It tends to be a very safe investment. If you look over time and you look at the home appreciations, yes, there's cycles and there's movement up and down, but home ownership, when you look at the net worth of people that own homes versus people that rent, the net worth of people that own homes are 40% higher. And so you look across the board at what kind of opportunity that can create for people.
Mm.
And I just believe in it. I think it's a great space to save money, to build wealth, and to continue to grow.
And I know this episode isn't about this, but I'm curious because I hear a lot of I mean, I own my home, but I hear now people wondering if this is the time to buy. Would you say this is a buyer's market or a seller's?
I think it depends on where you are in the country.
Okay.
It's in New Jersey specifically. I think this is definitely a seller's market. There's not a ton of inventory, and that's kind of what creates that supply demand. You go down to Florida, like Miami or Orlando, homes all over the place, that you
Yeah.
can you can jump into. So depending on where you are, and so like as an investor, that's kind of important to know as well. But yeah, I think it's always a good time. I think it's about finding the right property. It's about understanding like what finance options you can use and deploy because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. So don't assume. A lot of
Right.
home buyers think they need to put down 20%. They need to have excellent credit. Those are some of the things that just aren't true.
Oh, amazing. All right. Well, we're going to have to do a whole nother episode about that because I do think
That's
that
good.
people have no idea how to buy that first home. They assume you have to put down at least the minimum and, they don't know all these things. And again, with the credit scores, people have had a really hard time after COVID, especially
Mhm.
closing a lot of businesses. So, I mean, we'll definitely have to talk to you about that. But you've had such
Sure.
massive success in this industry. And I'm curious because we're going to talk about luck. Do you think that luck played a part in it, or do you think it was skill, or what?
Yeah, 100%. I think luck is a part of everyone's success. I think the equation to luck though, and creating it in your life, I think is the part that maybe when people look kind of like on the outside, they might say like, oh my gosh, so and so made it, or wow, they're so lucky that, how did they land that show, or how did they create that opportunity? There's a lot that goes into the formula to create luck. And I think that's what we're going to teach your audience today, I hope, is how to create, their luck in their life, how to create environments where luck can thrive.
Right. Okay. Well, let's start with the first question.
Yeah.
Would you define as luck?
Luck is the formula for it. Well, I don't want to give you the formula yet.
Okay.
But luck is really, it requires a lot of persistence. It requires a lot of grit. It requires belief in yourself. It requires being open-minded. We talk in the keynote speech that we do on this topic, we talk about Dr. Richard Wiseman, who conducted a 10-year groundbreaking study on the science of luck, right? So I can't necessarily own the topic, but going on the road and talking about it, I've been really passionate about, because I believe that people can do this in their life. And so essentially in his 10-year study, he found that people that are more lucky are, number one, more open-minded, and number two, have broader social networks. And so when you think about those two things as kind of ways to create and harness luck in your life, there's a lot of opportunity, but you have to be able to get through things like failure and rejection and the obstacles that life presents us, and kind of continue to push through to keep creating that in your life.
Right. So were there experiences in your life though that you thought to yourself, wow, I just got really lucky? Or did you always think there was something else to it, like being at the right place at the right time?
Well, I think being at the right place at the right time requires that you're prepared, requires that
Right.
you're open-minded, requires that you're open to being in other social networks. I'll give you an example. One of the first leadership positions I got, in the mortgage world, was a result of, like, if you just looked at it, it was a result of me playing golf, right? I played golf one day, and as a result of that, I was on a foursome with somebody that offered me a position. Hey, why don't you apply? I think you'd be great. Now, we could say that was just the right place at the right time, or we could
Mhm.
say, well, because I prepared and I was confident enough to golf and I took the opportunity to be in that surrounding, that's how it happened, right? So it's
Mm,
all about, how do you create that right place, right time in your life?
right. I'm curious, what made you drawn to like the idea of luck, like this whole conversation?
Yeah, I was asked to do a keynote speech for the Jersey Shore Chamber of Commerce. They do a women's conference every year. It was their fourth annual women's conference, and they said, "Why don't you do the keynote?" And so I really took some time to think about, well, what would be interesting? Because I don't want to talk about mortgages. I don't want to talk about sales. Like, what would really be a great topic that could be all encompassing about life and about business and resonate with people? And so I just kind of was brainstorming, and I came up with the science of luck after doing a lot of research. And I thought, this is an amazing topic. I loved how it sounded. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't believe in luck. I know there's people out there that, like, point their finger at others and say, like, oh, aren't they so lucky, and don't understand everything that goes into it. And
Mhm.
so it was kind of like controversial, kind of like a hot take topic, but
Mhm.
also something that applied across the board to personal and business, and everybody's life.
Right. So it's funny when I was coming up with like doing some research on the topic in general, I couldn't really answer what luck was because I kept getting like going down rabbit holes. It's not just like being lucky, it's not just something happening to you
Mhm.
all the time that's good. I mean, I think that's what people think it is, right? That you don't have to do anything and you just get lucky. But then I was trying to think of different people who may have missed an airplane and and they think they're not lucky, and all of a sudden the airplane goes down and they realize that they were lucky. And then I kind of got into the notion of, well, is it like sliding doors? If you miss, getting on the train, your life can veer in a totally different direction because you missed that train ride and you're now 7 minutes behind from what you would have been going down. So, like, I had all these questions about that,
Yeah,
right? And then
these are
I was
good ones.
talking to George, my producer, and my fiance about it. And, one of them said that they truly believed in luck and that there are people that go through life that are just lucky.
Mhm.
And the other one said, oh no, luck is not something that exists without you, like you said, preparing for it, being um, in the right place at the right time, but through knowing exactly how you're going to get there, not by accident in the slightest, right? So I think everyone
Absolutely.
kind of had their own perception of what luck was, I get.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the ingredients of luck, like you were saying before. Like what is the formula or the ingredients for what you call luck?
Yeah. So, and first of all, those are great questions. And it's a great way to think about it, because there's bad luck and there's good luck, right? And,
Right.
the purpose of this whole topic was to kind of dispel the myth that luck is like magic or coincidence, right?
Right.
That it's just something that happens to you, and really what it is it's something that you harness and you create.
Mm.
And so I was listening to a podcast recently that spoke about how you're not really like attracting things to you. You're more like you're already in receipt of them. You're kind of like a radio, and you're just turning on the music, right? The music's already inside the radio before you turn it on. And I thought that was just such a great analogy. One of the stories we tell in the keynote speech is like these two girls, they walk into a coffee shop, and one of them sits down, grabs their coffee, and is just sitting there scrolling on their phone, right? Just not paying attention, completely in their phone. And the other one is sitting there drinking coffee and like very aware, very open, to who's around them, and open to opportunity, and starts to have a conversation with the person next to them, and starts to talk about an opportunity that person has. They strike this conversation, and by the end of that talk, she leaves with a job opportunity. And that
Right.
person's like, "Hey, why don't you reach out to me? Would love to talk to you." And that's an example of like one of like being open-minded, being aware, having the right mindset. Like you can walk into anything in your life, maybe being single, be like, I'll never meet anybody. Like nobody's going to be here. I'm not going to find anybody that's good looking. Everybody's taken, whatever. You could walk through that. You're never going to have that mindset that's going to create luck in your life, because you're not going to see opportunity. Like opportunity doesn't come with flashing like signs and like
Yeah. It's
strobe
not a
lights.
rainbow with a pot of gold at the end of it waiting for
Exactly. It's subtle. It's super subtle. And then when it happens, you have to be able to see it. You have to have that mindset to see it. And so that's why the first part of the equation, the preparation part, is so important. How do you spend time preparing on whatever it is that you do, right? How do you spend time on like creating the right mindset and practicing your craft and what you do, and reading and learning and observing and being a good networker, right? Like to strike a conversation with a stranger isn't easy for everybody, but how do you prepare for that moment when you're in front of the right stranger, right?
right.
I had a realtor on the podcast who was telling me that her and someone else, they met a billionaire, and after meeting the billionaire, she ended up turning that into opportunity for herself and turning it into a deal and a client. And the reason why is because, quite frankly, she was just more prepared for that opportunity. She was the one that was more impressive. She was the one that had that skill set to really be able to talk the talk with that person. So you have to spend a lot of time in the space of preparing. What are you doing in your life to prepare? The second step in the equation, the formula to luck, is opportunity. Once you're prepared, you got to then put yourself in these opportunities, in these spaces where you can see things around you that are going to present themselves. And then the last piece is taking bold action, right? Because you can be prepared to meet that billionaire. You got the opportunity, now you're there, you're with them, but you never take the bold action part. And so just preparation and opportunity together won't get you there. You
Mm.
have to take that next step, that bold action part, to make sure that you can create that luck in your life.
If you're like me, you've probably tried every gut health product there is out there: probiotics, fiber, detox teas, and nothing's really worked. That's when I found Happy Mammoth, and it was a total game changer. Happy Mammoth focuses on the root causes, like balancing your gut and hormones, not just masking symptoms. Their natural formulas help reduce bloating, boost metabolism, improve digestion, and support healthy hormones, and they're specifically designed for women. What I love is they're gluten-free, dairy-free, non-GMO, and backed by thousands of five-star reviews from women who are finally feeling like themselves again. If you've been struggling with gut issues, mood swings, or stubborn weight, I highly recommend checking them out. For a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code UNDERSTOOD at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code UNDERSTOOD for 15% off today. So in talking about preparation, I think that's really important for people to understand, but it's not just preparation of like the event you're going to or the thing that you're doing in that moment. I talk a lot about this. I used to watch when I was younger, The Karate Kid. Do you remember that movie
Yeah,
from
of
years
course.
ago?
Mhm.
And there was that whole wax on, wax off concept. And I love this. And the fact that you go through life and every single experience, you might be like, this sucks. I don't want to do this. and you learn all these random things. But once you get to this moment that you may have been preparing for, you don't even realize it's preparation. It's like that all makes sense. And all of a sudden you're painting and you're doing all these things. And all of a sudden you know how to have this conversation with a billionaire. Or all of a sudden you know how to, you're in a place where you're invited to play golf like you were talking about, and you're able to network in a way that you can show up with confidence, when someone may have been pushing you to play golf and you didn't even know that you were going to get good at it or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So
Yes.
in my opinion, your life experience that you go through, you should look at it as this is preparation for the future, whether that means taking a job that you don't like, hanging out in a situation that you don't want to go to, listening to talks or podcasts about topics that you would never find interesting, but it's always good to be able to know a little bit about everything.
Yes.
That's my 2 cents on preparation.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's so true. It's like, I think about like health a lot when it comes to this, and being in great shape, and dressing well, and like just those two things together, right? And what that can create and harness in your life, whether it be new relationships, intimate ones, business ones. I think reading, podcasting, just doing everything. When you think about like the five kind of things in your life, like spirituality, health, finance, education, how are you filling each one of those buckets up? And like, some of it, to your point, it doesn't have to be so intentional. Like, I'm going to work out because I need to find this opportunity. It's just because you're doing it, because you're so focused on making those things in your life the best that they can be, and preparing as much as you can in those spaces, that things are going to happen for you. Things are going to
Right.
come your way because of it. So yeah, it doesn't have to be so intentional, but in other instances, it can be. And you could say, like, if I want to be luckier when it comes to money, or I want to be luckier when it comes to real estate, or dating, or opportunities, like, I'm going to take specific action to prepare more in these spaces and to put
Mm.
myself in these opportunities. And yeah, it can be very intentional too. But that's a great point.
How much of luck is being seen by the right person at the right time?
I think a big piece of it is because we all meet people in every industry, every walk of life, that are like amazing at what they do. Like in the mortgage industry, as an example, there are some people, that guys and girls, that are like total technicians. They can riddle off any guideline to you and tell you it in a second. And they're known that way. They're like, they understand everything, right?
Right.
But nobody sees them because they don't leave their desk. They're just behind the desk all the time. They're never out. They're not on social media. They're not meeting people. They're not going on podcasts. They're not going to networking events. So who cares? You could be the best at whatever it is that you do, but if you're not putting yourself in places where you're going to meet people who can see that, and you're not going to do what you can to promote that in some way and let people
That's true.
know, yeah, it's all for naught. What's the point? I think actually, like, opportunity, like, a lot of people can kind of be like half prepared sometimes, and just be like in the right places. And then sometimes opportunity can come. But yeah, it's a huge part of the equation. If you miss that piece, you're missing out on creating a lot more luck in your life. No doubt about it.
I think that's a really important point, because don't you think that during COVID, people mindset has changed so much about leaving their house? I mean,
Yeah.
I have met so many people that will not take a job in person still, not because of COVID, but they're
Wow.
just, they cannot get out of their house. They like working from home.
Mhm.
Listen, I'm 50. So like I came from where I
Okay.
learned a different work ethic than people have. Like, you're at
Yep.
work at 8 a.m., you don't leave till 6, and you really try to be the last person out the door. And you always want to be working. I can't hire someone unless they respond in like 2 minutes or less. I
Mhm.
just can't deal with people. And there are people that take like 4 days to respond. I
Yeah.
don't understand this sort of Gen Z type of work ethic. But getting in the office or doing
Mhm.
things in person, listen, I was single forever because I would also never go out. I hate going out. I don't like interacting with people really. I mean,
Yeah.
I do a lot of interacting with people all the time for
Right.
my podcast, for my life. But then, at night, I like to watch Dateline and hang out with my dogs and my kid and go to the gym. And when I was single, I was like, there's no way I'm getting all dolled up to go listen to somebody that I am going to probably dislike. So I had this mindset, and I
Mhm.
remained single for a really long time because I just did not put myself out there. And it's the same thing with the job, like you're talking about, or just making
Yes.
friends. I mean, at our age, it's like
Yes.
my age, you're much younger than me, I think, is, hard. It's hard to find friends later in life because you kind of don't want anyone
Right.
anymore.
Right. You're
So,
like, that's exhausting, right? It's
yeah,
all about how you think about things, right? It's like, oh, well, then I got to listen to their problems and then I got to talk on the phone with them all the time. Like, I don't have extra time on the weekends. My calendar's already full. And
right.
your social battery is probably drained doing what you do for a living and talking to people all the time. And so now I'm
Right.
curious, like what changed for you though? Like I
Well,
mean,
what
you're
changed
not
is that
single.
people kept saying, "What the hell are you doing at your house all the time?" Or like, "Why does the party have to come to you?" Like, why, you if you want to meet, so specifically for relationships, if you want to meet somebody,
Mm-hmm.
you're never going to meet them on Bumble or whatever. You have to like make yourself available. And kind of like what you brought up earlier when you were talking about the two girls in the coffee shop and one's looking down and one's looking up.
Right.
Like I was always that person, even going to the grocery store, hat on, sunglasses. I didn't want someone
Yeah.
to talk to
Leave
me.
me alone. Yeah.
Yeah. At the gym, same thing. Don't bother me while I'm working out. I don't care. But you see all these people going to the gym just to find a lover or
Right.
whatever, right? So, I think it's also what you said, the energy you put off. I
Yeah.
just started to be more open to things. I think I worked on myself enough where I'm like, listen, I'm like this all the time to people. I
Mm-hmm.
have to stop being like that. And ended up kind of making myself do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that it was interesting to meet new people. I liked meeting new people. And by the way, that was part of the concept of my show about how people are misunderstood. And so I would think, oh, I'm never going to like this topic or I'm never going to like this person. And so I would make myself engage for a little bit. And then
Mm-hmm.
I found that I could be talking to them for an hour or I could learn a new hobby or, I found that
Yep.
making myself uncomfortable was probably the best thing for me. And it really was
Mm.
because I am an example of someone like you said, I could go into any situation from a guy who is homeless to a
Mhm.
billionaire, and I can have 10 hours of things to talk to them about because
Yeah,
I'm genuinely interested, or
you're
I could
curious.
keep up with their conversation. If they're super smart and even work in an environment that I don't know, I can absolutely find that interesting and ask questions, or I'm sure there's something about them that I could relate to make us more equals. So
Right.
I'm very good at that. And those are skills that I've honed for 40 years of my life.
Well, I mean, I think those are all such great examples, and it starts kind of like with a little bit like of a mindset shift, right? So you had people in your life that were, reminding you, like, hey, like you need to do this if you want this to happen, right? And
Yeah.
it seems so simple from the outside looking in, but you said before you had to get kind of outside of your comfort zone with it. And not everybody's comfortable preparing and learning. They don't know where to start or where to go, or they're just they don't naturally gravitate towards that, or a lot of people aren't interested in or comfortable with meeting new people, having new conversations, putting themselves out there. And
Yeah.
so that's a big piece of it. And then after that, it's like, so when you are at that place and you do meet that person, and then it's like, okay, now what, right? Because it doesn't always, you could have done all of that, now you're there and the opportunity's there. And how many people don't take action on opportunity when it's right in front of them?
Yeah.
And it's because, sometimes they don't see it or they're not thinking about it, right? To your point, you're at the gym, you're not looking at that guy. Like, you're like, you're not even like, that could be the love of your life, but you're like
Right.
totally like, it doesn't even matter because in your mind, it's not even like, it's not even a part of your plan. It's not going to happen. So you
Yeah.
kind of have to, you said before, you opened yourself up to the opportunity that, like, maybe there is someone amazing here. Or maybe I am going to meet someone good. Maybe I do want to make friends. Maybe this could be something amazing to me. So it really starts there for a lot of people. And then you need
Yeah.
to kind of have that grit to run through the rest of the process.
Right. And there were only so many shows on the ID network and Dateline. I started to notice they were all reruns at this point, and it's always the husband or the wife that kills them, right? So
Oh
I
yeah.
I
Well,
was like, let me get out of the house.
that probably didn't help your mindset too much with dating.
Right. Right. Can you share a personal story where something looked like a lucky break from the outside, but behind the scenes it was years in the making?
Yeah, I'd say I think the podcast is a great example. I think, for 13 years I worked in a super corporate environment where, I like to say, like, I was on mute, right? And when I decided to leave, this large national lender, super corporate job, and kind of come into a more entrepreneurial, progressive environment, I said, you know what, I'm going to have to step out and really do something big to build a brand. And I felt passionate about building a brand and letting people know who I am and figuring out how I wanted to do that. And I spent, and I love telling the story because I think it's about back to being like uncomfortable. I spent the first like few months when I left the company, and even like a little bit before when I left, making all these videos, like different videos. I want to talk about different things, whether it was encouragement or maybe it was about something educational. And I would keep them on I kept them on my phone for probably like 6 months before I had the, I guess, like the courage to post them, to put them out there, right? And so it was very uncomfortable for me at first. I had to make the videos. I would watch them back. I would send them to people I trusted and say, like, what do you think about this? Like, is it stupid? Like, do I look stupid? I was my own worst critic when it came to it. But I really pushed myself outside of my comfort zone because I knew it was something that had to be done. Like, it wasn't a choice. It was no longer an option. And so, if anybody were to look at the podcast today and see maybe some of the recent guests, they might say like, oh, wow, well, she got really lucky, like somehow, or they might just sit and think like, well, that's natural for her, of course that's easy. Right. But for me, it wasn't. It was something that I had to continuously work on that skill and prepare myself and get better and better at doing video, get more and more comfortable with doing video. And then ultimately, I had to get to a place where I felt comfortable putting it out there. So I think that's a great story about like the power of preparation, and then how the more you do it, the more comfortable you get, the more opportunity comes your way, and then taking bold action. Like some of these guests we've had have been just a pure result of bold action. So, things don't always look as they may seem. And like sometimes you think like, wow, that person's they're natural at that. You look at top athletes, so many different people like with these stories of failure, of trial and tribulations, or getting outside their comfort zone. That's how they got to where they are today. So I think the Billion Dollar Banker podcast, is a great example of exactly that. Very cool podcast. We're really excited to be doing it. And it all started there. So I think that's a good story.
You talk a lot about mindset. For someone listening who feels stuck or unlucky, what's the first thing they should do to shift things?
Yeah, I think that's such a great question. One of the biggest things that control kind of our mindset is our environment. And so I think it has to start there with, taking inventory, right? How do you feel when you're in your environment? What environments inspire you? Who are the people that you're surrounding yourself with? How do they make you feel? How are they uplifting you? What are they doing to help you kind of aspire to do more or be more? Are they encouraging you and supporting you? And I think like that, the people around you and the environment that you're in is the first place you need to take that inventory and honestly say. And sometimes by the way, it's like even family or people in your life that you've known forever that you love, but every day they call you complaining, or every day they call you with a sad story, or maybe they're always discouraging you, like, oh, don't open that business. So many people have that, or so many people are doing that, right? You have to really think about, I'd say the best way I could say it is how to kind of put boundaries in place around the people in your life that you may love, but may not be serving you, or the environments that you may enjoy, but aren't really serving you and your objective in your life. And so once you start there, you take that inventory, you look around, and then you create the boundaries that you need. Now you need to say like, okay, well, where am I going to go from here? Like, now what? How am I going to fill this cup up again? Because I just emptied it out. I got this stuff out that wasn't good. And it's like the old analogy, like you can't turn like dirty water into clean water by just like, pouring something in it, right? You have to kind of dump the dirt out, fill the water up again to make it clean and like renew it, right? And so ultimately, what you need to do at that point is then decide like who, what, where am I going to spend my time, right? So, and not everyone has like all these positive role models and influences around them. And that's why I think the world of like podcasting and YouTube and you could sit and watch a Netflix show, like kind of like a make-believe, and we all do, or you can pause and listen to something that's really inspirational and motivational, something that's really going to help you get out of bed, that's help you get supercharge some area in your life. And so I think we need to decide, like, what podcasts are we actually listening to? What books are we reading? How are we, you turn on the news in the morning and you hear all the bad news coming out, everything that's wrong with the world. Is that motivating you, right? Or should you start your day with music? Should you start your day with a workout? So figure out who's going to be, I like to say, like, your board of directors, right? There's people, all types of people that you'll kind of find relatable in your life, but that you maybe aspire to be like. Surround yourself with a good board of directors, whether it be authors of books, podcasters, being open to meeting new people and creating new opportunities in your life, going into new environments that you would never normally go into. Like, instead of going to that same local bar, where you see the people you grew up with, go somewhere brand new and put yourself in new places, even when it's a little uncomfortable. And you may meet some of the most amazing people that influence you and push you in the right direction. So it's kind of like, the magic is happening here and you're here. You need to get up there and kind of claw and find it.
How can someone increase their luck surface area, especially if they don't have money, connections, or a big platform?
Yeah, well, so I mean, you're going to create luck in your life by following the formula, right? It's preparation plus opportunity plus bold action. That's going to equal luck in your life. So whatever those areas are for you, you have to, the hard thing is, like, you can follow every one of those steps. You could be prepared, you could have the opportunity, you could take action, and you could fail. And I always think about the story of Dyson. Like, nobody has a vacuum cleaner anymore with a bag on it. But Dyson failed like over 5,000 times before he actually got it right. He actually made the Dyson vacuum cleaner. And even after that, like, nobody wanted to take him on. Nobody wanted to invest in it. He had to create his own company. Hence, Dyson, who is now a billionaire, right? And so you have to be okay with, like, rinsing and repeating that formula. You can't say, well, I tried dating, or I tried my own business at some point, right? And it didn't work out, right? Well, guess what? That's part of it. That's part of this luck formula, is doing the formula and then realizing, like, okay, it's getting you a little bit closer, but rinsing and repeating it again and not being let down by failure. Everyone loves the Thomas Edison failure, where he found 10,000 ways not to make electricity. Thank God he didn't give up and he kept going. Like, he really believed in what he was doing and that it was going to work. So you have to have that belief. And I can tell you this right now, if you don't have that belief in yourself today, I will tell you, I believe in you. We believe in you. That's why we're here sharing these messages, is because we want to inspire and motivate people, right? We're all taking an hour out of our day to share a message, right? There's no book to sell here. There's nothing that comes with this, right? It's just sharing value. So believe in yourself. We believe in you. Share this message, share this episode. Make sure that you're spreading the message and the love too. And it's going to keep coming full circle in your life. And I believe in that wholeheartedly. If you didn't have that belief, surround yourself with people that are going to believe in you, and you'll start believing in yourself more.
I'll say a situation and you tell me if it's luck, skill, or both. Landing your first $1 million event. Is that luck, skill, or both?
I'd say, well, skill is what gets you there. So, I mean, a lot of them, I'll say skill and luck.
Going viral on TikTok. Luck, skill, or both?
Skill and luck.
All right, here's a good one for you. Meeting your spouse on a plane, then getting laid off, then landing your dream job. Luck, unlucky, skill, what?
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Meeting your spouse on your plane after getting laid off, and then landing your dream job. I'd say, like, if you weren't, so like, I have to answer it this way, because if you don't have the skill, right, you're not going to get the girl or the job or the guy, whatever it is, right? So skill is what creates luck, right? And I think people have that, like, backwards, right? It's either skill or luck. And it can be, you could get obviously just a little bit like luck, like maybe you did nothing to prepare. But if you weren't in that space where you were prepared, let's just say, like, how you were dressed. If you look like a slob and you're sitting next to the dream girl or guy, now you've, like, ruined that opportunity because you weren't prepared. So you have to have the skill to dress good, the skill to talk good, so that when you are in that spot and in that opportunity, like, then you can take that action and make something happen. So I think it's like a combination of all of them. I think skill, it creates luck, helps you to create more luck in your life. So you got to work on the skills. But man, that was a good one. I like got laid off, met someone, and then landed my dream job. What a day.
All right, last question for you, Nicole. This has been such a pleasure. I think you're great. If you had to leave our listeners with one takeaway, what is the most misunderstood thing about luck that you want people to remember?
The most misunderstood thing about luck is that you can't control it. You can't control luck. Luck is not magic. It's not coincidence. It's something that you can control in your life. And if you follow the formula, preparation plus opportunity plus bold action, you are going to create environments where you harness luck, and luck is going to thrive in your life. And so don't think of it as magic anymore. Think of it as something that you control.
Nicole, it's been such a pleasure having you on here today. I can't wait to have you on to talk all about mortgages next time. But in the meantime, please tell our listeners where they can find you if they want to listen to your podcast, or if they are thinking about buying their next home and want to get a mortgage for you, or if they just want to talk more about luck.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me today. This is an amazing podcast. So professional. Some of the best questions I've ever been asked about this topic. So I really appreciate that. I hope the listeners enjoyed it. If you'd like to follow me or check out our podcast and everything we're doing on social, my hashtag is @BillionDollarBanker on all the social platforms. I hope to see you and come check us out.
Thank you, Nicole. Adore you. Thank you so much for listening to Misunderstood. I'm your host, Rachel Yucatel. Please be sure to subscribe to the show and give us a 5-star rating and review. You can support the show by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/misunderstood with Rachel Yucatel. Do you have ideas for the show or want to reach out? Email us at info